Phil and Ross, you've done a great job running the meeting up to now. I might be sticking my neck out a little bit, but I have a hunch that Ross probably won't find this job as hard as he did his last job with RBS. I'll assume Ross has seen the film Spank the Banker. Yep, no?
No.
Well worth watching. I think one thing that might be worth hearing about, with RBS, there was the Global Restructuring Group scandal. I'm not going to go into details about it. And Ross has done a good job on all counts as far as helping bring RBS back from the brink. But do you feel that the GRG people have been properly remediated and fairly dealt with up to now, up till you leaving the bank?
You want me to pick yours, Phil? Yeah. Just so everybody knows, GRG is Global Restructuring Group, which was the resolution team for the Royal Bank of Scotland. It had something like 6,000 customers go through this, of an SME up to very, very large organisations globally. There were some major difficulties with the way, and this is what RBS did admit to, that the way we dealt with customers. And it needed remediation. So we asked any of the customers who wished to go through a remediation process to actually put in their case. And we had, I think, over 2,700 of those 6,000 customers who requested their case to be reviewed. The primary problem with the cases was around fees, complex fees. Most of them, a large number related to that, but there were some very, very complex cases that went through an appeals process, a remediation process and appeals process. And when I left, there was still a number that had to go through it because of the complexity. What we did was we put together a program that gave everybody a fair chance of putting their case forward, and then it had an appeal to an ex-High Court judge. So that High Court judge sat totally independently and made the decision. And the organisation honoured that decision. If that changed the decision we'd made, we honoured that decision. Now, I must say, I think it was the right thing to do. The question, were people happy with what came out of that? There are a lot of people that were, and there are a lot of people that weren't. And I think that's what I'm seeing here. We've got to be very careful. We build expectations from people that will still be very unhappy even if they go through a remediation process. And already this organisation has had a number of those processes, and there are people still unhappy. Unfortunately, these are very, very sad cases of where people have lost livelihoods, they've lost businesses, they've lost family relationships and all sorts. And I do understand that. But I think we've got to be very careful we don't build an expectation here that the organisation will pay for things that didn't go, that they weren't accountable for. So
I don't think any person who is in this situation expects you to pay out a cent if it's not a valid payment.
Good.
And I agree with you on that point.
Mm.
One more issue I'll just quickly mention. As you probably know, there's global movements, and our government also is very keen to reduce the use of cash. And we call the cash ban bill, which is currently being looked at and investigated. It'll be quite good for banks. I mean, it would be quite good for banks generally, for business, if there was no cash. You can imagine the ramifications. I don't think I'll list them off. If people want to see the ramifications, they can go to my website, bankreformnow.com.au. But this is an issue that a lot of people have lost trust in banks, so it'd be hard for us to stomach that we've got no alternative but to deal with banks. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And there's so many risks involved, but I won't go into details about it. I might talk to some of you afterwards. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks very much, Mr. Brandson.